Scientists once placed a dog in a cage with an electrified floor. They rang a bell, then shocked the dog. Bell, shock. Bell, shock. After a while, they stopped the shocks but kept ringing the bell, and the dog still panicked, still cowered, still suffered, even though the danger was gone. The cage door was eventually opened, but the dog wouldn't leave. It had learned helplessness. Now let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many bells are still ringing in your life that no longer carry a shock? And how many cage doors are standing wide open that you refuse to walk through? You see, that's what we're dealing with today. I'm going to tell you something that might shake you, but I need you to hear it. You've been taught to control your emotions or express your emotions, but no one taught you the truth. Emotions are information systems, not identity markers. You've confused feeling something with being something. You've mistaken emotional weather for your permanent climate. And that confusion, my friend, that confusion is keeping you in a cage with an open door. The world tells you that emotional mastery means suppression. Be strong, don't cry, stay positive. Or it swings the opposite way and says, honor your feelings. Your anger is valid, your truth matters. Both are incomplete, and both leave you enslaved. One makes you a pressure cooker. The other makes you a victim. Neither makes you free. And I'm tired of watching people live in emotional prisons when the keys are right there in their hands. Here's what I want you to understand by the end of our time together. Emotions are not your enemies or your essence. They are messengers from your unmet needs and unhealed wounds. When you master your emotions, you're not silencing them or worshiping them, you're decoding them. You're learning to read the language your soul speaks when words fail. This conversation we're about to have will teach you the grammar. Now, I'm not going to give you breathing exercises or tell you to journal. I'm going to show you the spiritual architecture of emotional intelligence, how emotions were designed to serve your purpose, not sabotage it, how your anger is often grief in disguise, how your anxiety is frequently excitement that forgot its name, how your sadness can be the birthplace of your deepest wisdom if you stop running from it. By the end of this video, you won't just manage your emotions, you'll translate them. You'll know what they're trying to tell you, why they arrived, and what they need to leave. You'll stop being a slave to your feelings and become a steward of them. And that shift from victim to translator is the difference between a life you survive and a life you design. So let me take you somewhere personal. Let me tell you about the day I became a volcano. I was in a meeting and someone questioned my leadership in front of the entire room. Now on the surface, it looked like a simple disagreement. But inside me, something ancient was waking up. I felt my chest tighten, my jaw locked. My hands became fists under the table. And in my mind, I was completely justified. This person was disrespecting me. They were undermining my authority. They needed to be put in their place. I felt righteous. I felt powerful. I felt certain that my anger was the appropriate response to their disrespect. So I erupted. I didn't yell, but my words were surgical. I dismantled them in front of everyone. I made sure they understood exactly who was in charge. And when I finished, there was silence. The kind of silence that feels like victory. I thought I had won. I thought I had defended my honor. But when I got home that night and sat in the quiet, something broke inside me. Not because I regretted being strong, but because I realized I wasn't angry at them. I was angry at myself for needing them. I was angry at myself for caring so much about what they thought. I was angry because their words found a wound I didn't even know I had. You see, beneath that volcanic explosion was a little boy who grew up being told he wasn't smart enough, wasn't worthy enough, wasn't leader material. And every time someone questioned me, it wasn't just questioning my leadership, it was poking that old wound. It was ringing that bell. And I reacted like that dog in the cage. Even though the shock was long gone, I realized that day that I wasn't angry at them. I was angry at the wound. And I had just burned a relationship to protect something that was already healed, but I didn't know it yet. That's when I learned this. Beneath every volcanic emotion is a geological truth, layers of pressure that have been building in silence for years. My explosion wasn't the problem. It was the alarm bell I'd been ignoring. The anger was trying to tell me something, but I was too busy using it as a weapon to hear what it was trying to say. But here's where it gets interesting. If emotions are alarm bells, why do we keep hitting the snooze button? Why do we prefer the explosion over the examination? I'll tell you why. Because looking at the wound is scarier than defending it, Because admitting you're hurt is harder than pretending you're just angry. Because vulnerability feels like weakness in a world that rewards armor. Now let me give you another picture. Imagine a perfectly still mountain lake. I want you to see it in your mind. The water is so calm, so clear, that it reflects the sky with flawless precision. Every cloud, every bird, every ray of sunlight perfectly mirrored on the surface. That lake is doing what it was designed to do. It's reflecting. It's showing you the heavens. It's revealing something greater than itself. That's what your soul was designed to do. To reflect the image of God, to show the world something beautiful, something true, something eternal. But then someone throws a stone. Maybe it's betrayal. Maybe it's loss. Maybe it's rejection or trauma or failure. And suddenly the surface erupts into chaos, ripples everywhere. The reflection is shattered, the image is distorted. And here's the mistake we make. We look at those ripples and say, this is who I am. I'm broken, I'm angry, I'm anxious. I'm a mess. This is just how I am. No, you're not the ripples, you're the lake. The ripples are temporary. The stone was external. And if you wait, if you stop throwing your own stones, the surface will still again. Not because you suppressed anything, but because stillness is your nature. The problem is, we don't wait. We look at the ripples and we panic. We think we need to do something about them. We try to smooth them out with our hands, but that just creates more disturbance. Or we throw more stones because at least that feels like control. Or we tell ourselves that the ripples are our identity because at least then we have an explanation for why we feel so chaotic. But what if I told you the ripples were never the problem? What if I told you that the lake knows how to still itself if you just stop interfering? So why don't we wait? Why do we keep throwing stones at ourselves? Because we've been taught that stillness is weakness, that emotional intensity is authenticity. We've been taught that if you're not feeling something big, you're not feeling anything real. But what if the opposite is true? What if the most authentic thing you can do is let the ripples settle so the true reflection can emerge? Now I want you to do something with me. Close your eyes for a moment if you can. I want you to picture yourself 5 years from now. You're in a conversation that once would have triggered rage. Someone criticizes you unfairly. Someone questions your character. Someone dismisses your ideas, and you feel it. That old familiar sensation. Your chest tightens. Your jaw clenches. You feel the heat rising from your stomach to your throat. It's all still there. But this time there's something different. There's a pause, a space, a gap between the feeling and the reaction. And in that space, you ask a question you've never asked before. What is this emotion trying to protect? And suddenly you see it, clear as day. You see a younger version of yourself, maybe 7 years old, maybe 12, standing there terrified. And that younger you is trying to keep you safe with the only tools they knew. Fight back. Defend yourself. Make yourself bigger so they can't hurt you. That younger you doesn't know that you're not in danger anymore. They don't know that you've grown, that you're capable, that you're safe. They're still operating from the old program, the old bell, the old shock. And instead of letting that younger you hijack the moment, instead of letting them take the wheel and crash the car, you do something radical. You comfort them. You thank them. You say, I see you. I know you're scared. I know you think we're in danger. But I've got this now. You can rest. And just like that, the heat dissolves, the tightness releases, the reaction loses its power. Not because you suppressed it, but because you finally understood it. You translated it, you spoke its language. That future version of you exists right now, waiting for you to claim it. The gap between who you are and who you're capable of being isn't discipline. It's not willpower. It's not even strength. It's translation. It's learning to read what your emotions are actually saying instead of just obeying what they're demanding. But how do we learn this language? How do we go from being controlled by emotions to being fluent in them? Let me break this down for you because this is where everything changes. First truth, and I need you to really hear this. Emotions are data, not directions. Say that with me in your mind. Emotions are data, not directions. They deliver information, but they don't hold authority. Think of it like the dashboard in your car. When the check engine light comes on, it's telling you something's wrong. It's giving you information. But you don't put the check engine light in the driver's seat. You don't let the warning light steer the car. Yet that's exactly what we do with our emotions. We feel unloved, so we conclude we are unloved. We feel like a failure, so we decide we are a failure. We feel afraid, so we assume we're in danger. This is called emotional reasoning, and it's one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into because feelings are real, but they're not always true. You can feel something deeply and be completely wrong about what it means. Let me give you an example. You're in a relationship and your partner doesn't text you back for 3 hours. You feel anxious, you feel neglected, you feel like they don't care. Those feelings are real. I'm not dismissing them. But are they true? Maybe they're in a meeting, maybe their phone died, maybe they're planning a surprise for you. The feeling of neglect is real data, but the conclusion that you're being neglected might be completely false. This is why emotional literacy matters. You have to learn to name not just I'm upset, but the specific texture of what you're feeling. Is it disappointment or betrayal? Is it overwhelm or grief? Is it fear of abandonment or fear of vulnerability? Precision creates power. You can't solve a problem you can't name. And here's the paradox I want you to sit with. The more you honor your emotions, the less you obey them. The more you listen, the less they scream. Because emotions don't want to control you. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. And when you finally give them that, when you finally stop and say, okay, I'm listening, what are you trying to tell me? They lose their urgency. They stop hijacking you because they don't have to anymore. You're finally paying attention. Now, let me take you deeper. I want to talk to you about something I call the 3-generation wound. Most of the emotions you feel on a daily basis aren't even yours. I know that sounds strange, but stay with me. Trauma, coping mechanisms, emotional defaults, they get passed down like DNA. Your grandfather's rage becomes your father's silence, becomes your passive aggression. None of you invented it. You inherited it. It's like a family heirloom nobody asked for, but everybody carries. I've seen this in my own life. My father had a way of shutting down when he was hurt. He wouldn't yell. He wouldn't fight. He would just go silent, cold, distant. And as a boy, that silence was more terrifying than any anger could have been because I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know if he was okay, if I was okay, if we were okay. So I learned to read silence. I learned to be hypervigilant. I learned to manage other people's emotions so I wouldn't have to face that silence again. And I carried that pattern into my marriage, into my leadership, into every relationship I had. I didn't choose it, I inherited it. But here's the good news. Just because you inherited it doesn't mean you have to pass it on. You can be the generation that breaks the cycle, not by force, not by shame, not by pretending the wound doesn't exist, but by awareness, by looking at the pattern and saying, this ends with me. My children won't have to carry what I carried. My team won't have to navigate what I had to navigate. The cycle stops here. And let me tell you something powerful. Just because you feel it doesn't mean it's yours. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's right. You have permission to put down what was never meant for you to carry. Now let me explain something that's going to change how you see your emotions forever. It's called the emotional lag phenomenon. Most of the time, when you have a strong emotional reaction to something, you're not actually reacting to what just happened. You're reacting to what happened 3 months ago that you never processed. Emotions have a shelf life. And if you don't process them, if you don't complete the cycle, they don't just disappear. They ferment, they turn toxic. They wait in your system like time bombs. Think about it like this. Emotional digestion works just like food digestion. When you eat, your body breaks down the food, absorbs the nutrients, and eliminates the waste. But if you don't digest it, if you just store it, it rots, it makes you sick. Emotions work the same way. When something happens, you're supposed to feel it, learn from it, and release it. But most of us skip the middle part. We either suppress it or we get stuck in it. And then 6 months later, someone says something small, something insignificant, and we explode. And we think we're angry about the comment. But really, we're angry about the betrayal we never grieved. We're angry about the rejection we never processed. We're angry about the disappointment we never acknowledged. Healing isn't about positivity. It's not about looking on the bright side or finding the silver lining. Healing is about completion. It's about finishing the emotional cycle so the energy can move through you instead of getting trapped in you. And here's the paradox. The emotions you run from chase you. The emotions you face dissolve. I know it feels backward. I know it feels like if you open that door, you'll drown. But the truth is, you're already drowning. You're just doing it slowly. Facing the emotion is what sets you free. Now let me talk to you about anger because I think this is where most people get stuck. Anger is not what you think it is. Anger is grief's bodyguard. Let me say that again. Anger is grief's bodyguard. It shows up to protect something softer, something more vulnerable underneath. Usually fear, sadness, shame, or powerlessness. Anger feels safer because it creates distance and control. When you're angry, you feel strong. You feel like you have power, but it's exhausting to maintain because anger isn't the root, it's the response to the root. So when you're angry at your spouse, ask yourself, what am I actually sad about? When you're angry at God, ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? When you're angry at yourself, ask yourself, what am I actually grieving? Because I promise you, beneath that anger is something tender, something that got hurt, something that got denied, something that mattered deeply and didn't get honored. Anger is a secondary emotion. It only shows up when something you love has been threatened or something you needed was denied. So stop fighting the anger and start asking what it's protecting. Let me give you another reframe that's going to blow your mind. Fear is excitement without breath. I know, that sounds crazy, but hear me out. The physiological state of fear and the physiological state of excitement are almost identical. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your breathing quickens, your body is preparing for action. The only difference is the story you tell about the sensation. If you tell yourself, I'm about to fail, you feel fear. If you tell yourself, I'm about to fly, you feel excitement. Same sensation, different narrative. This is what I call emotional alchemy. It's the practice of transforming one emotion into another, not by force, but by reinterpretation. Your body doesn't know the difference between I'm about to fail and I'm about to soar. You teach it the difference with the story you attach to the sensation. So the next time you feel that nervousness before a big presentation, before a difficult conversation, before a new opportunity, pause. Don't label it as fear. Label it as readiness. Label it as anticipation. Label it as your body getting you ready to show up fully, and watch how the experience shifts. Now I want to introduce you to a concept that I think is one of the most important things I can teach you today. It's the difference between emotional sobriety and emotional drunkenness. Most people are emotionally drunk most of the time. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean it as a fact. They make decisions, send texts, burn bridges, build walls, all under the influence of an emotional state that will pass. They react when they're angry. They withdraw when they're hurt. They make promises when they're happy and break them when they're sad. They're intoxicated. And just like you wouldn't let a drunk person drive a car, you shouldn't let an emotional state drive your life. Emotional sobriety means waiting until the wave passes before you act. It means recognizing that what you're feeling right now, as intense as it is temporary. And making a permanent decision based on a temporary emotion is one of the most destructive things you can do. Never make a permanent decision based on a temporary emotion. Write that down. Tattoo it on your heart. Because I've seen people quit jobs they love, leave relationships they needed, destroy friendships they valued, all because they made a decision while emotionally drunk. But I also need to balance that with this. Never dismiss a recurring emotion as just feelings. If it keeps coming back, if it keeps showing up, no matter how many times you push it away, it's not random. It's not just you being too sensitive or too emotional. It's trying to tell you something structural, not situational. The difference between a temporary emotion and a recurring one is this. Temporary emotions are about what happened. Recurring emotions are about what's unresolved. So yes, wait until you're sober before you act. But don't ignore the pattern. Don't dismiss the message. Let me tie all of this together with something that I think is the ultimate truth about emotions. Emotions disconnected from purpose become prisons, but emotions aligned with purpose become fuel. Let me give you some examples. Anger at injustice, when it's connected to purpose, can birth movements, it can change laws, it can protect the vulnerable, but anger without purpose just destroys. It burns relationships and leaves ash. Grief over loss, when connected to purpose, can birth compassion. It can make you the kind of person who sits with others in their pain because you know what it feels like. But grief without purpose just isolates. It builds walls and keeps love out. Fear of failure, when connected to purpose, can birth preparation. It can make you diligent, thorough, excellent. But fear without purpose just paralyzes. It keeps you small and safe and stuck. So stop asking, why do I feel this way? Start asking, what is this feeling trying to build in me? What muscle is it trying to develop? What gift is it trying to unlock? Because your emotions are not obstacles to your destiny. They are the sculpture tools, and you are both the artist and the marble. Now, I know we've covered a lot, and your head might be spinning. But I don't want you to leave here with just theory. I want you to leave here with tools. Practical, simple things you can do today to start translating your emotions instead of being controlled by them. So let me give you 5 practices that will change everything if you commit to them. Practice number 1, the 90-second rule. Here's what neuroscience tells us. An emotion, when allowed to move through the body without resistance or story, will complete its cycle in 90 seconds. 90 seconds, that's it. The reason emotions feel endless is because we re-trigger them with our thoughts. We replay the story, we imagine worst-case scenarios, we rehearse what we should have said. And every time we do that, we restart the 90-second clock. So here's what I want you to do. The next time you feel a strong emotion, set a timer for 90 seconds. And for those 90 seconds, just feel it. Don't analyze it. Don't justify it. Don't try to fix it. Just notice where it lives in your body. Is it in your chest, your throat, your stomach? What temperature is it? What texture? Is it sharp or dull, heavy or light? Don't narrate. Don't story tell. Just witness. Let it be a visitor, not a resident. And I promise you, if you can do this, the intensity will drop. Not because you suppressed it, but because you completed it. Practice number 2, the emotion interview. This one's a little different, but it's powerful. I want you to personify your emotion. Give it a voice, and then interview it like you would a person. Ask it questions. What are you trying to protect me from? When did you first show up in my life? What do you need from me to feel safe enough to leave? Now, I know this might sound strange, but here's why it works. It creates distance. You're no longer being the emotion. You're relating to it. You're in conversation with it. And that shift from I am angry to there is anger here, that shift is everything. Because you don't negotiate with hijackers, but you do interview messengers. Practice number 3, the completion ritual. Unprocessed emotions need a closing ceremony. They need a way to leave your system. This could look like a lot of different things depending on what works for you. Maybe it's writing a letter you never send. You write everything you wish you could say to the person who hurt you, and then you burn it. Maybe it's speaking forgiveness aloud to an empty chair. You imagine the person sitting there, and you say the words you need to say, not for them, but for you. Maybe it's physically releasing tension through movement. You go for a run. You dance, you punch a pillow, you let your body express what your words can't. The point is this: emotions have a beginning, middle, and end, but we often interrupt the cycle. We stop at the beginning or we get stuck in the middle. Completion doesn't mean resolution. It doesn't mean everything is fixed or healed or perfect. It means release. It means the energy has moved through you instead of staying trapped in you. Practice number 4, the pattern audit. This is a weekly practice, and I cannot stress enough how important it is. At the end of every week, review the past 7 days and identify your emotional patterns. When did anger show up? What preceded it? When did sadness arrive? What need wasn't met? When did anxiety spike? What uncertainty triggered it? You're becoming a detective of your own soul, and patterns, once seen, lose their power. Because you can't change what you can't see. But once you see it, once you map it out, you have choice. You can decide, is this pattern serving me? Is it protecting me? Or is it imprisoning me? And if it's the latter, you can start to dismantle it. Practice number 5, the pre-response pause. This is a micro practice, but it might be the most important one. Before you react to anything, before you send that text, before you raise your voice, before you shut down, take one breath and ask yourself this question. Is this response coming from who I am or from who I used to be? Because most of our reactions are autopilot. They're programmed from childhood, from trauma, from fear. They're not conscious. They're not chosen. They're inherited. And that one breath, that one question, it interrupts the autopilot. It gives you a chance to choose. It gives you a chance to respond from your present self instead of your past wounds. Now listen, I don't want you to try to master all of this at once. That's not the point. Emotional mastery isn't a destination. It's a daily practice of translation. Start with 1. Pick the practice that resonated most with you and build that muscle. Trust the process. You're not learning to control your emotions. You're learning to understand them. And understanding is freedom. So where does this leave us? After everything we've unpacked, after all the stories and lessons and practices, what's the one thing I need you to walk away with? Let me bring this home. We started by exposing the truth that your emotions are not your identity. They are messengers, not masters, witnesses, not judges. We walked through the stories. The volcano that taught me anger was protecting a wound. The mirror lake that showed us stillness is our nature. The future self who knows how to translate instead of react. We broke down the lessons. Emotions are data, not directions. Anger is grief's bodyguard. Fear is excitement without breath. 3-generation wounds can be broken. Emotional sobriety is a discipline worth cultivating. And we gave you practices. The 90-second rule, the emotion interview, the completion ritual, the pattern audit, the pre-response pause, tools to translate what you feel into what you need. Here's what's changed. You now know that you're not broken, you're not too sensitive, too angry, too anxious, too much. You've just been fluent in a language no one taught you to read. But today that changes. Today you become bilingual. You speak emotion and you speak purpose. And when you can translate between the two, you become unstoppable. So I want you to receive this. I want you to let this sink into the deepest part of who you are. You are not your emotions. You are the space in which they arise. You are not the storm. You are the sky. And the sky is never disturbed by the weather. Say that until you believe it. Write it until you embody it. Live it until it becomes automatic. The next time anger rises, you'll know it's protecting something tender. The next time fear grips you, you'll recognize it as energy waiting to be directed. The next time sadness washes over you, you'll sit with it like an old friend who's finally ready to tell the truth. You're not at war with your emotions anymore. You're in partnership with them. And that partnership is where your power lives. If this resonated with you, if something in your soul said, yes, this is what I needed to hear, do me a favor, hit that like button, not for the algorithm, but as a declaration, a commitment to yourself that you're done being mastered by what was meant to serve you. Drop a comment and tell me which lesson hit you hardest, which practice you're going to start with, because I want to know. I want to walk this journey with you. And if you want more of this, more truth, more tools, more transformation, subscribe, because this conversation is just beginning. You're not here by accident. You're here because you're ready. And I'm honored to walk this path with you. Go master your emotions. Not by silencing them, not by worshiping them, but by understanding them. Because a life where your emotions serve your purpose instead of sabotaging it, that's not just freedom. That's legacy. That's the life you were created to live. I'll see you in the next one.